What's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is the Earthmaster here on this Friday night. Friday the 13th, January 13th, 2023. It's about 8:45 p.m. here along the West Coast. We're kind of drying out currently tonight. Not a whole lot of rainfall. Did pick up almost another inch of rain here over the course of the last 12 hours. Latest earthquake shows a 2.1 into California. Starting to see a little bit of uptick here along the West Coast. All right, let's go ahead and check out some activity first here with the Tremor department. Okay, the PNSN folks here put out a tremor notification yesterday, looks like. Now the tremor activity is what we see on the map here in the Cascadia subduction zone. Tremor most likely occurs about the southern end all the way up to the northern end here of the Cascadia, which sits just offshore here of the Pacific Northwest, Northern California, and also the Vancouver Island Ranges area. And of course, tremor activity plays a part in possibly predicting the next Cascadia megaquake earthquake. And it's been an odd one here recently. They did put out a little notification here. Recent ETS, episodic tremor events sequences, have not followed a similar pattern that was common from around about 2006 until 2017. For many cycles, the area involved was similar, and they occurred about 14-month intervals. We'd always see that little interval every 14 months where tremor tends to uptick, but that has not been the case recently. In the past two cases, the overall area was broken up into at least two segments that were active at different times, the most recent about 5 months apart. So what could we expect to occur next? I would have figured that the Washington segment would have gone first, followed by the Vancouver Island segment some months later. Nope. Maybe it's the other way around. Sounds like there's a little bit of confusion here with the professionals understanding what's going on up here with the Cascadia. We now seem to be in an ETS period of at least the central Vancouver Island segment. It started about December 30th, and after a few days seems to be moving in a normal pattern to the southeast. Some periods during the following days had very strong tremor. By January 12th, it had progressed to within about 100 kilometers of Victoria. If it were to continue as many of the sequences of a decade ago did, it will pass into Oregon or pass into Washington in about a week. However, the last few days have seen fewer and weaker tremor bursts, and who knows what's next. There's a lot of questions, a lot of guesses here. In any case, we will try to keep this blog post reporting and guessing on what comes next. So we've seen this little irregular type of tremor activity occurring here into it pretty much started, it seems like, back in about 2020. These intervals of earthquakes, or not earthquakes, but they're tremors, started to pick up in a more common fashion here, instead of like that 14-month period where we've seen these spikes here are the amount of tremor, and the higher the spike, the more the tremor. During those 14-month period, obviously we've seen some, but not as much as what we see normally during that 14-month period. But since about 2020 or so, we've seen those intervals kind of split up, but also get closer together. They're not really following that 14-month period of tremor uptick. And what it means, who knows? I do know I am paying super close attention to it, and hopefully we can maybe predict the next Cascadia earthquake by reviewing all this tremor activity, because tremor activity has a major part on what goes on upstream along the locked area. And this tremor occurs all over the place. Hikurangi subduction zone, other subduction zones around the globe. But one, that's been kind of most focused on is the Cascadia subduction zone. And something's going on. It's definitely abnormal. And these guys are starting to realize it, and they're starting to guess what's going on. I don't know. Scratch my head. But, who knows? It's been 323 years since the last rupture along the Cascadia that produced a 9.0 over here. And of course sent a Pacific-wide tsunami, no telling how far, but I'm sure all over the place, and created some devastating events out there. I wasn't here in 1700, and I don't think any of us were, but there's been studies on it. There's geological evidence of it across the Pacific, and not only the Pacific area, but it's been written in certain stories from folks that live there in Japan area, and of course the ghost forests across the Pacific Northwest. So it's just a matter of time, I think, before we see that 9-pointer kick up here. We've been relatively stable here in terms of geological processes and volcanic activity and major earthquakes, and we're happy. We're living a nice little happy life in quiet times, but it's not always going to be quiet. So definitely got to be prepared for that next Cascadia mega quake, which could come any moment. Now, let's check out the tremor here. What do we get? About 84 epicenters of tremor into the Northern California area currently today. And in Northern California, we've seen a little bit of uptick in activity. This was early this morning, though, just after midnight, 3.5, 2.8. But notice the depth here of these earthquakes, 37 kilometers deep, 18 kilometers deep, indicative there of some subduction zone earthquakes into the southern end of the Cascadia. Tremor activity downstream, further stress upstream. And once there's enough stress to where it can't handle anymore, and it decides to let go, that's when we'll see the 9-pointer. The Cobb Mountain area of Northern California rocking and rolling today. Quite a few 2s out there and some other smaller microquakes. Now the satellite imagery out here shows a lot of these earthquakes out around the hydrothermal operations out here in Northern Cal. They have a process where they inject raw sewage into the... Don't want to throw up here. They inject raw sewage into the heated areas below to create some dry steam somehow, and create energy to power some homes there in the Bay Area. Sounds like a very nasty process, and I don't know. When I was up there last year was it last year about this time? It's been about 10 months or so. I made it up there to one of the main gates, and surprisingly, they opened the gate because I was driving a car that I guess maybe they thought was an employee. They literally just opened the gate for me without even IDing me. But I stopped myself, and I said, I'm not here to get in. I'm just kind of curious about the earthquake activity. So then he shut the gate, but didn't want to get that guy fired, because letting people in without authorization like that could probably obviously get you fired. But it's a pretty interesting process up here. I did smell quite a bit of sewage out there in certain areas where I was at. So, yeah, pretty nasty. But there's a big process, and there's a whole bunch of these operations going on all over the Cobb Mountain area, and that's what's going on here today. It's been a common thing for quite a while, far back as I can remember. And there's a huge article on it. If you check out Calpine hydrothermal operations, you'll see what's going on out there in the Cobb Mountain region. Last 30 days of earthquakes, you'd think there's a volcano going to blow out here, right? 1,142 earthquakes, but no. It's just mankind, humans trying to figure out a way to get rid of waste and also at the same time create energy. Poking holes down there into a volcano, kind of messing with the bowl. Eventually, if you mess with the bowl, you get the horns, right? I don't know exactly how that goes, but you guys get it. So, yeah, activity continuing there in Northern Cal, and that's been an ongoing process. 3.2 coming in just earlier this evening here around Walker, California. 3.2 and a 2.8, literally within minutes of each other. It's been a while since we've seen earthquake activity out here in the Antelope Valley, not Southern California Antelope Valley, but up here into the Sierra Nevada border area. Ridgecrest area, pretty quiet. It looks as though right now the majority of the activity here across the globe, we've seen some deeper movement quakes here across the northern end of the Izu Trench, including this earthquake. Deep earthquake, 4.2, 364 kilometers deep. That does add further strain up here along the Izu Trench, but also at the same time further pressure westward. That general plate movement here. Let's see here. I got to make sure I keep that thing up. I keep saying it, but I keep forgetting about it. But yeah, general plate movement here in this area. You get the subduction zone quakes around the eastern edge of the Philippine plate, and that adds strain not only upstream but also in this area south of Japan into Taiwan area. So deep earthquake activity happening there. Also into the Indonesia region south of the Banda Sea. 4.6 deep earthquake, 152 kilometers coming in there. And I seen something odd going on over here south of South Africa. Intraplate earthquake, a 4.6. Kind of an oddball quake. We just normally don't see too much earthquake activity away from the plate boundary down here. So let's see what we have here. Occurring within the last hour, about 10 kilometers deep. It has been reviewed. Historical data here shows that there was an earthquake of similar magnitude here since about 1900. But that's about it. There hasn't really been that much earthquake activity out there in this region of the world. So occasionally, there's some oceanic faults out there that pop off that are not, really studied. But that's where this 4.6 struck tonight. Atlantic Ocean, fairly quiet. South America region as well. The Puerto Rico area looks very typical. Actually, it's calmed down a lot here. Only about 6 earthquakes. And if you look at our swarm here, if you zoom into our normal swarm area, normally we see about 15 or 20 earthquakes here a day, just due to the subduction zone levels to the south and the north, kind of squeeze in the Puerto Rico area. Only 4 earthquakes listed up here on the map. Pretty quiet. Eastern portion of the states, very quiet as well. Not a whole lot going on up in Yellowstone, but we will check it out, see what's going on here. And looks awfully quiet. Some type of interference going on here. They got this seismograph station really tuned up, picking up possibly some environmental noise, but I don't think it's earthquake activity because that would show up across other areas around the park in the seismograph readings, but it's not. This is a little bit overly tuned in that area of the park. Up here around the Seattle fault, 2.2 coming in. That was from yesterday, though, on the Seattle fault. Up into Alaska, yeah, I would say there's definitely a noticeable increase across portions of the Gulf and along the Aleutian Trench here. Seeing a broad area of uptick in earthquake activity. Nothing major going on, but there's still a noticeable increase, including some movement here that we seen yesterday. Back building here prior to the subduction zone at 3.0, and some other earthquake activity through the Cook Inlet and up through the north of Denali area. Outside of Fairbanks, seeing a 2.6 as well. So, with that, just kind of watching things currently. It's Friday the 13th. Nothing major bad has happened. Didn't win the lottery. That's for certain. I don't know if anybody did or not, but hey, pass a couple donations this way. Who knows? You never know. You can't win unless you play. I played like $5, or $6 because they're $2 a game. And, I didn't win anything, but that's okay. 4.4. A couple earthquakes from last night, or one from last night, one from earlier this evening as well. Some deeper movement. And, of course, very limited activity upstream along the Tonga Trench, Kermadec Trench area. A quick glance here at the GeoNet servers. Going to verify this activity. See what we have out here along the globe. We're the flat scale model Earth, 4.7, huh? There's a 4.7 being reported 1 hour ago. Now, on the Earthquake 3D globe, yeah, I see it, 4.6 it looks like. Not showing up there on the USGS model. It's a relatively shallow earthquake. along the Kermadec Trench. Let me see, where'd GeoNet servers go? There we go. It is preliminary earthquake data right now, so it means it has not been reviewed by anyone that's the appropriate level. So not 100% certain if this is going to be a legit earthquake or not. So, for that, we could obviously check some volcanic drums, earthquake drums, and see what's going on. I don't see anything being listed up here for a 4-pointer. Volcano drums. Obviously, we're going to see a 4.6 potentially show up, even if it's north along the Kermadec Trench. Hard to say. There's a little signature here about it looks like a couple hours ago. But for the most part, no major earthquake activity occurring currently around the New Zealand region. The Big Island, Hawaii, there's not a whole lot going on there currently. Kilauea Volcano still continuing. Mauna Loa, awfully quiet. Most earthquake activity around the Pahala area. It's been a ongoing type of event there with that activity. Now, we did have a long duration M flare kicking off here. Notice this spread out line here. A lot of times we'll see a quick, oops, I killed that one. But we'll see that quick jolt here of you guys hear my birds? Hopefully you're not predicting an earthquake. That's not good. But most of the time these M flares pop off. Even X flares, they pop off really quickly and they settle back down. But this was a long duration M flare earlier from a very far side sunspot. I believe it was coming from one of these up here. Let me see here. I don't think I took an image of it. Did these guys mention it? I don't think they did. Yeah, but I believe it was from one of these far side sunspots here, which are newly named, by the way. And these are some major monsters out here. I'm not even joking. At least looking at some of this most recent data over here, 3192, 3191, are some monster sunspots, and 3190 as well. This one here has got a very complex magnetic structure with those colors coming in, and is it getting active. The most recent imagery here still shows some development and some further complex magnetic structure there with this sunspot. But the flare, I believe that long duration flare came from one of these areas up here, if I remember correctly. Nothing being listed on the chart, but this is going to be an eye opener, I think, here coming up next week. These are some huge sunspots, and they pose a threat for some major flares. Now, we've been seeing this little pattern where they kind of light off a whole bunch of flares away from Earth, and then they, rotate into view, and they just kind of decay like this one. But I don't think that's going to happen here with these couple new sunspots that are rotating around the eastern limb. So we'll definitely watch that potential. This guy right here, this sunspot, fairly massive, and it does harbor some potential for some strong flares as well. 3186 is the one that's kind of rotating into view. That does harbor a very complex magnetic structure, a beta gamma delta class, and that one harbors a 5% chance for an X flare. It has produced one X flare and two other strong M flares, and I'm sure a couple other weaker M and C flares as well. There's a whole lot of sunspots in the view right now, and we need to be on guard for quite a few of these coming up here, possibly next week here as these things progress into view. Overall threat right now, 15% chance of an X flare, proton event elevated, 25% chance, M flare at 55, and 99% chance for a C flare. but that's almost certain there with the current levels. And yeah, it's going to be interesting here to see these massive sunspots rotate into view. Current conditions, though, looks fairly green. Not a whole lot going on here. Greenery is good, that's for certain. We're going to have a whole lot of greenery out here in California due to all this rain. Goodness. But that's good. We need it. Current aurora forecast here looks fairly minimal. There's a little bit of unsettled conditions up there at the higher latitudes, but overall things look fairly stable. Quick glance here at the weather models along the west coast. Getting a little break right now tonight. Again, like I said, we almost picked up about an inch of rain throughout the day today. Pretty much anything that falls, even if it's just a light, shower, it builds up on the surface because everything is so soaked and just can't really soak up anymore. Very saturated, and it's good for the environment. That's for certain. So here is to tomorrow. There's some very limited pockets here of some heavy duty precipitation rainfall rates, but it's going to be covering a good portion of California for this weekend. We got one more storm coming in on late Sunday, Monday, and then things start to kind of dry out a little bit. Thursday still looks fairly wet across portions of Northern California, but we're getting some of that colder air coming down. Now, these things are always subject to change. Colder air for us means drier conditions. But it looks as though each model run here is in, pretty much agreement with each other. Colder air coming down from the north, cutting off that Pacific flow of moisture. And there's going to be some snow showers and whatnot across the Intermountain West and Great Basin area. But things are mellowing out here. A look at the precipitation accumulation rates, total accumulation rates here over the next, we can go back here, we can go up to about the 28 time frame. Looks a lot more, a lot less, I should say, in terms of accumulated rainfall around the Sacramento Valley. It looks like around the Chico area, between, tomorrow's storm and Monday, could pick up another 1.5 inches. Maybe 2 inches of rainfall, but that's about it. Some further rainfall up into Oregon and Northern Cal. Lots of snowfall into the mountains, but nothing like we've seen here, this time last week where we're looking at a lot of rainfall. And, I still haven't complained about it one bit. I don't want it to stop. We're doing okay as far as any flooding goes, but we definitely still need a lot more rainfall to completely kick us out of the drought. But either way, this is a whole lot more than what we've seen here over the last couple winters or so. It's been very dry around here for Northern California. Let's see, anything major going on across the volcanoes? I don't see any updated volcano activity across the Cascades here in Nevada, Southern California. Looks like these Great Sitka volcanoes and these other volcanoes here along the Aleutian Trench still underneath the watch level, but nothing major has kicked off. And of course, Kilauea volcano. Seismograph stations here. A couple of them are up. Holy smokes. Look at that, guys. I got to show you that. Where'd it go? Look at that. Goodness. Can you say a malfunction? Yes, I can. That's don't let anyone fool you. That's not the ground rising and lowering and all that stuff. I could see someone definitely taking advantage of that and fear-mongering that a little bit here on the YouTube channel, but that's not cool. So here's a more recent graph. And a little bit of volcanic tremor kicking up here, it looks like. But notice, no ground movement there across the area. Goodness. Same for about this one. Everything looks fairly stable. No major earthquakes across the Kilauea volcano. Looks like they finally got Mauna Loa up and running. Looks very nice. There's not a whole lot of earthquake activity popping up there. Things are fairly stable for the most part now. We'll go ahead and double check some volcanoes here across the Pacific Northwest. Mount St. Helens area, the crater. We haven't checked this in a while, so I kind of want to see what's going on here. Let's see here. Stand by for just a second. Way overblown. Way overblown. Now, of course, that one's not found. Overblown meaning that most of the time a seismic signature is going to look, for example, something like this. Thin. Very thin, and then you can see earthquake activity that pops up on it. And this one's just overblown and very dramatic. So, but still, we can't really, it doesn't look like there's too much earthquake activity happening out there at Mount St. Helens region. A little spotty activity here, but again, nothing major. Here's a good graph. I like that. Very good readings across the map, across the graph here. Maybe one little small earthquake, but hey, I'm not going to hold that against the PNSN network for not reporting it. It's all good. So a couple areas to watch, folks, with this deeper movement. Got to remember, deeper movement does trigger some earthquake activity upstream, and that means subduction levels to the east. But also at the same time, if there's not enough strain built up here, got to watch to the west. It's kind of a teeter-totter effect here on where the most activity is built up. All right, I am going to, I think I'm going to jump off here. By the way, that buoy out here into the Cascadia Basin has been fixed. There was a little bitty glitch right here. That's in that red line that kicked this thing off into event mode. But I believe that was just some type of error there with that certain buoy. I mean, who knows? Maybe a whale, maybe a dolphin, maybe a mermaid. Who knows what was out there, just kind of triggering that thing for the adjustment there showing up on that graph. There's no other buoys out here in event mode. No major swelling of the Pacific Ocean, oceanic crust. Nothing going on there, folks. Remember, if that was happening, I guarantee you, if there was swelling going on up here underneath the oceanic crust, we would see a mega tsunami. Not even joking. Doesn't matter how slow it is, it would happen. But there's nothing going on. Things look calm and cool and clear for now. Don't forget to check out Timothy's New Zealand quakes here. Moderator here on this channel and also member. He's got a pretty cool setup there of earthquake activity and seismographs and all sorts of stuff there. And I'm sure he's posted this up here in chat quite a bit. But New Zealand Quakes is the site to check out. Let's see, what else do we have here? I'm just kind of looking around, seeing what we got. Yellowstone National Park. Should we check out the GPS movements up here? Haven't really seen earthquake activity up here recently. I mean, it's been relatively mellow in terms of any type of swarming going on. Tremor activity relatively quiet, except for those are some old graphs. Not a whole lot going on here. A lot of these are old, so. Alrighty, I am going to jump off here, folks. Sunday is the day that we do the member drawing. Today's the 13th, so you guys got a day, 2 days. And we'll normally, when we go live on Sunday, we'll normally give folks a chance to jump in on the drawing as well. Say if they're, they didn't know about it. And if they become a member here on the channel, then we'll throw them in the mix as well to win some prizes for a member-only monthly drawing. And yeah, Sunday, probably shoot for, trying to think what a good time is. Normally we'll do it around 1 o'clock. It's going to be raining, so we may do it inside, and maybe for fun we'll do it outside. Who knows? But either way, Sunday around 1 o'clock Western time, we'll go ahead and do that member drawing for the members out here. There's actually a lot of earthquake activity into the South America region and the 2s and 3s out here along the Peru-Chile Trench. Notice that pretty good increase. Now there wasn't a whole lot showing up here on the map tonight. A couple earthquakes there from early this morning. Wow. USGS showing a 3.9 in Chile. That's a little odd. Normally it's 4.0 or nothing. Maybe 4.5 and above, but them showing a 3.9, that's wow. Woo, getting on it. Getting on board with the data. I would love to see the USGS put up at least an option here to include all magnitudes around the globe. That would be really impressive, and I'm going to write them about it. If I worked for the USGS, I would put something like that on there. Just 4.5 and above, or 4.0 and above for international. It just doesn't really cut it because these swarms that occur down in certain areas are, we need to watch that and see if that could be leading to something much bigger. But who knows? Maybe they'll get to it. Maybe they won't. We'll see. Maybe I'll write them and see how it goes. Alrighty, guys. I am going to jump off here. Have a beautiful night. Friday night. Still Friday the 13th, so a couple hours left. Don't do anything crazy out there. Keep it safe and sound. We'll chat at you guys a little bit later tomorrow sometime. Have a good night.